we're back. You're watching Marvel Live, and we have a new friend pop in, Travis McElroy. Hello, sir.
Hi, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Oh my gosh, it is our pleasure.
It's just nice to sit down.
Oh,
honestly.
this is a hot seat, literally.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually a pretty cool seat.
It's nice.
Because there are not a lot of seats at New York Comic Con.
Yeah.
You're like a pro, though. You do this. You've been doing this, right?
The con stuff? I do.
Yeah.
I do a lot of con. I really have done a con push this year. I just love getting out and meeting people and eating chicken tenders at convention centers.
Oh, they have the best food.
Oh, it's my favorite.
Killing
I
it.
just love chicken tenders so much.
There's like a whole floor.
Podcast in there about cons and chicken fingers.
There's something about there. I do like to tweet a lot about the chicken tenders that I eat at cons. It's usually the first thing I seek out. It really sets the whole tone for the whole experience. Like, if they have good chicken tenders, it's going to be a good con, you know? It's the details that matter.
So you are a podcaster.
Yes.
We all have worked on podcasts for Marvel.
We are people of the pod.
We are
Pod
people of
Welcome.
the pod. We are pod people.
Excellent.
You work with your brothers a lot, which I think is pretty amazing because many people choose not to work with their family once
Wait,
they
I
don't have
cannot
to.
work with them?
Yeah, that's
oh,
totally-
God.
You don't have
This
to.
changes everything.
I don't know if I could be on a
Yeah.
podcast with my sisters. I don't know.
Yeah, my brother and I have conversations, but I don't know if we could carry on a podcast. But you do my brother, and me.
Yes.
You have done tons of stuff with your brothers based on TV shows and other like movies. Tell us about working with your brothers.
Well, it's amazing. There's this concept in music that I learned about recently called blood harmony. And it's this idea that like when siblings or like family members sing together,
I've
that they
heard
kind
this.
of have like natural harmonies and like it's so close it'll sound like the same person singing. And I think of it that way of like Justin and Griffin and I all grew up like, you know, cracking jokes together and like playing games together and like doing like, you know, pretend adventures together and everything. And so the way that we sound on the shows is the way that we talk in real life and interact in real life. And we started My Brother, and Me as an excuse to stay in touch as we were all like moving to different cities and everything. And so it really just came out of that. Our intention wasn't like to create our new profession or whatever. It was just like, well, you know, we don't want to fall. We want to talk at least once a week. And then people seemed to like it. So we just started doing more. And at this point, I also do a show with my wife. And we do Adventure Zone with our dad, and Griffin does a show with his wife, and Justin does a show with his wife, and Justin's wife does a show with her sisters, and there's a lot of family members involved in our shows.
It's
So,
a
like-
family podcast
Sorry.
reunion.
Yeah, and 3 generations from now, it's just going to be like 50 of you in a room talking.
Yeah, I mean, already, like, my older brother, he has a daughter named Charlie who's 4, and, like, she and him will record the Charlie Daddy show, where they just, like, talk about, like, and when they talk about the moon a lot, it's really great. And that's really fun, and, like, yeah, that's a thing that, like, already is a fun thing to pass down. Like, when we go on tours, there's, like, 15 people with us, and it's all family. And it's, like, you know, in-laws and daughters and brothers, and it's everybody. It's a lot of people. A lot of hotel rooms.
The family that
Start your own
podcasts
religion.
together.
Yes.
I feel like I should ask you for advice because a lot of people ask you for advice.
Yeah, it's not, we don't give good advice,
No,
but I can try.
know. How do you think I should go about my week at Comic-Con to be successful?
You know, if you had asked me a couple years ago, I would have said, do as much as you can.
Right.
But now that I'm old, my answer there is like, do as much as you want. And if you're tired, like feel okay saying like, you know, I think I'm done.
This is actually good advice.
Yeah.
This is
Because
very
I think
good
a lot of
advice.
people push because you get this feeling of like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. But trust me, as someone who's been to like 30 cons this year, it's not a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's like 30 times a year opportunity.
Yeah, it's once in a weekend opportunity.
Yeah, and so it's okay to like go take a nap and like stop and eat lunch and like go to bed at a reasonable time and like you don't have to drink too much unless you're talking about water. Drink lots of water.
Yes.
That's another. It's so, especially if you're like walking around a bunch and you're like sweating and everything. Drink water. Take care of yourself. You're worth it.
You're worth it.
Yeah.
This is
You also have
great
like a
professional
really
advice.
busy con schedule.
Yes.
You have a couple events coming up.
Yes, I've got some really big things I'm excited about doing a show tomorrow night, the George Lucas Talk Show, I believe, at UCB. I'm doing the Travis and Friends show that includes, off the top of my head, Jean Grey,
Yay, I
Holly
love her.
Conrad, Miles Luna, Paul and Storm, Jonathan Colton, Amy Dallin, Pat Rothfuss, Adam Savage is going to be there, Maureen Johnson, my dad, Clint McElroy. There's like 20 plus people, and my wife and I will be there, and it's our anniversary. It's our 5-year anniversary, so we're doing the show together. And you can come to that. Get your tickets at bit.ly/McElroy, NYCC, all lowercase. And that's at the Hammerstein Ballroom Saturday at 7:30. And then I'm doing a panel I'm very excited about. I think it's 11 a.m. on Sunday morning with like Aisha Tyler and Adam Savage and Orlando Jones, and we're doing the great debate. I think other people are there too, but I can't remember. I have a lot going on. But doing the great debate panel with Sci-Fi and debating about nerdy things, and I'm really excited about that one.
These are heavy hitters, dude.
I know. I'm just really excited to be nervous around Aisha Tyler. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
That's natural.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
I have to ask you, Adventure Zone, you guys, that was your first, for some of you guys, the first time.
That was my dad's first podcast.
And
yes.
your dad's first podcast, but your first real D&D
Oh, yeah, no,
go-around.
yeah.
Have you since gotten more into the D&D thing? Well, you guys have been doing
Yeah.
lots of role playing, but is there like, do you have a class or like a character you like to play now? Do you play more?
I always play Rogue. The thing is, it's like
I always play Rogue
I
too.
love
They're
Rogue.
the
Rogue
best.
is the most fun to RPG as far as I'm concerned because like you can like do just about anything and justify it, and you're
Yeah.
like, I'm going to do this. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm a rogue. It's fine, whatever. What I didn't realize is like I have been into role-playing stuff way longer than I knew that I was into it. Like, there was a game called Hero Quest, and it was a board game that was very much like D&D, except it came with pre-written adventures. And when me and my brothers ran through all the adventures, we just started making it up as we went along.
That's what
And-
D&D
and
is.
We didn't know that we were basically just playing D&D. And so then when we started playing D&D, we're like, oh, okay. And like we'd been playing, like MMORPGs online and stuff, and it's basically the same thing. You're chatting with people and role-playing and rolling characters and everything. And so then when we started doing D&D, I was like, oh, this is just more of the thing I already love. And we got into it from listening to D&D podcasts. And now I get the really, really like wonderful, heartwarming moment of like people coming up to me and saying, hey, since I started listening to your show, I started playing D&D. And it's like, yes, awesome, because that's why I do it. And it's really, really exciting to be able to pass that on. And like just today, a dad came up to a signing and said that his 11-year-old bought our graphic novel having not listened to the show, and they both like loved the book, so they started listening to the show together. And like that kind of stuff just really makes me happy because like I grew up listening to stuff with my dad and like playing games with my dad and that kind of stuff. So like hearing the fact that we have passed that on to the next generation is like really exciting to me.
So your graphic novel, tell us about that. Was it hard to do something where you weren't talking?
Well, yes, honestly. So converting it, so we took so it's really hard to explain, but the Adventure Zone is broken up into kind of huge arcs. So we have the Balance arc was the first one, and then we had supplemental arcs, and now we're in Amnesty, which is the next biggest one. And so Balance, which is the first arc, has 7 chapters, and each chapter we're planning on making into a graphic novel. So the first book, Here There Be Gerblins, is the first chapter, Here There Be Gerblin. And it was really weird because converting it into written, we realized a lot of jokes only played because of delivery. And when you're like rewriting the joke, like, because we played originally like being really snarky with each other, and just reading it, it's like, oh, they hate each other. And it's like, oh, yeah, so we had to like go through and rewrite for tone, which was an interesting thing. So we really thought about it from the point of view of if this had started as a graphic novel, what would it be like? Because when it was the podcast, it's the podcast. And we didn't want to just like, we didn't want it to be that only people who have listened to the podcast would like the book. We wanted to make it so someone could pick it up, not know anything about either D&D or the podcast and still like it. And so it was a lot of adapting. We're working on the second one now, which is the Rockport Limited, and it's way better, mostly because the chapter, like that chapter in the podcast was so much better because we knew what we were doing and the jokes are better and we knew the characters more and like, it's so like, and I love Here There Be Gerblins. It's great. But Rockport Limited all takes place on a train and it's very like, it's a takeoff of like the Orient Express. And so like, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of train fights. It's great.
So then what was the main thing that you learned? After doing the first one, you were like, all right, for the next one,
Yeah.
less exposition. Or
Yeah,
what?
I mean, really,
Yeah.
it's like the main thing we learned was like, kill your darlings. It's like if you have a joke that you absolutely love, you can waste so much time trying to make it work before you're just like, this doesn't work. The other thing we learned is like, they're in one panel with no dialogue. Our artist, Carrie Peach, can convey way more of a punchline than like 8 lines of dialogue explaining the joke with just facial expressions, because that's the thing we don't have in the podcast. And then like with just like one reaction shot, it's like, oh, okay, cool. That covers like 8 lines of dialogue about, I'm not so sure about this. You can just go, and it's like, okay, we know exactly what's happening there. So like letting the pictures tell the story. It's a graphic novel. Graphic is
Right.
before novel. Graphic is more important. And then just like also just trusting the material and don't try to be funny. Just let it be funny. We learned a lot. There was a lot of lessons learned.
There you go, writers at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just funny because I think about the concept of show, don't tell, which is
Yeah.
something you have to do in a visual medium like graphic novels. But when you're doing an audio podcast, you kind of have to tell a little
Yeah,
bit
right?
more.
Yeah.
And there was also this really weird thing. So, like in the podcast, we can make meta jokes about the fact that we're playing D&D and know what we're doing, and like, so you have the level of this is us talking, you have the level of this is the character talking, but you also have this weird middle level of like, this is us talking as the character making a joke. It's like, no, the character's not actually doing that. That's me making it. But then in like graphic novel, we can like, well, we can't do that unless I step in. I'm like, hey, joke, 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 and lean back out. And it's like, no, that's weird. So we made Griffin do that. So Griffin leans in and makes a joke and leans back out. But yeah, it was. There was a lot of thinking about like, how does it exist in this format? It was really fun. It was very fun to do, and it's exciting to be working on the second one with all the knowledge we had from the first one. And also,
cool.
people seem to like the book, so that also makes me feel nice.
Heck
It's
yeah.
nice to know
Right.
that people like the thing we worked on for like 2 years.
That's important.
Yeah.
So for those out there who are thinking about podcasts, who love podcasts, what would you say as a person who is clearly a podcast aficionado,
Mm-hmm.
having done this, what are the top 3 things you've got to have in a good podcast?
Okay, so the answer to that is start it. Talk about a topic you already like talking about with a person that you already like talking to about that topic, and then don't worry about numbers. Because the thing that happens is people get too caught up, but it's a long game. You might not have an audience for 100 episodes.
Perfect. That was a perfect way
Perfect.
to end this. Thank you so
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.